Hello and welcome to the Podawakens, the road to Boba Fett, the road to the Book of Boba Fett. And we're starting with Attack of the Clones. I'm Jordan Wiegand, and with me today is somebody making his debut on the show, my cousin Brandon. How are you?
Hey guys, doing pretty good. How you doing, Jordan?
I'm hanging in there. I had somebody tell me yesterday. I had somebody tell me yesterday. It really was a great knock to my self-esteem here. They were like, I was at work. Did you see
I saw it. Go ahead, tell the story.
So I'm at work yesterday, and they're like, "Hey, don't take any offense to this, but you just look really exhausted and not yourself lately. You should probably go see a doctor." I was like, "Thanks." And then I went into the bathroom. I was on my way to the bathroom. I went to the bathroom. I'm like staring at myself in the mirror, like
you're just going like, "Oh, my eyes!
I don't know
what happened to my eye sockets." Yeah. I mean, I do every day.
I was sick the day before. I left work early on Thursday because I was sick. So I felt like maybe I still had some of that going on, but I don't know. I thought I looked pretty okay. So that was a little bit of a
Jordan, you look like how you have to me for the past 25 years.
Good.
So, yep. Look,
good.
look as good as gold. Yeah, love you.
Yeah, thank you. At least that's a nice.
Come on, let's build up Jordan's confidence. Yeah. Let's go.
Build up my confidence by subscribsubscribing to the.
There you go.
So we
just get unsubscribes.
Now we just get a whole bunch of people unsubscribed. Yeah. So as I stated, we're going to be talking. We're going to look at all of Boba Fett's appearances throughout the Star Wars canon, and we're starting with Attack of the Clones. We're going to talk about the movie as a whole, too, and just kind of things we thought, like maybe choices that were made. We're going to look at stuff like that, and we're also going to really then focus on Boba Fett and how this transitions him to, as we go, up to the Book of Boba Fett launching on December 29th. So thank you for joining me on this, Brandon.
Thank you for inviting me to join
if people are watching and see his name on the screen here, Brangon, that is a reference to whenever we do Star Wars stuff. He was Brangon and I was Joe Wan. We were nerds.
Hey, but technically I was your master if we're going.
Yeah, it didn't really
with the Qui-Gon aspect. Yeah.
But I think it made sense to me because I said, Wan like starts with a W. My last name starts with W.
Yep.
Brandon, it's just taking that D and flipping it to a G. Like,
yeah,
it's real simple.
A very simple change.
I've changed it for my Knights of the Old Republic run, though, and I don't know why I never thought this before, but I named it Jordan. So JOR-DANN. I added another N in there to make it look Star Wars.
Okay, yeah. You could have done that or like two A's.
Yeah.
You said two N's or two A's?
Two N's. Yeah, I could have done two A's.
Yeah, you could have done two A's either way, but yeah, nice. I like it.
Yeah, I think it looks really good.
Yeah.
But
did you do the hyphen or just that's did. Nice? There you go.
But my name on this Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes is Joe Wan. So just something I always go back to. But
a nice reminder of the good old days.
Nice reminder of when we were young.
Yep.
So let's also set the stage for when we first saw this. I was 11, and Brandon, you were 8. 6?
Probably 8. Let's go.
Hold on, 2002.
Yeah.
So 6, right?
I was 8. Yeah, I was 96. So
4 plus 2.
Depending on the month, I was 8.
No, you were 6, right?
Was I?
96 to 2000, 4 years.
You're
2
right.
years. And it was in May.
For some reason,
you were 5.
I was going 6 plus 2.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
But no, you were actually 5.
At least we didn't say I was 10.
Birthday. Yeah, it was before your birthday too. So
yeah.
Back when we had the May releases.
It was probably. Was it that early?
Yeah, it was a May release.
Wow. Felt like it was more a midsummer, but.
Well, you know what? You were 5. You probably didn't really go to school, right? I don't know if you were in school yet.
I was probably in like pre-K
or something.
Yeah.
So that's how it was released. And you know what? I just I put this in my notes too, and I'll probably bring it up in the scene. But I remember, like in the run-up to this, I was watching, if anybody remembers the show, Total Request Live with Carson Daly, where they played a countdown of music videos on VH1 or whatever.
It sounds like a cool show.
Yeah, it was. They had, for some reason, because Star Wars was everywhere back then too. if you think it's everywhere now, it was everywhere back then. They did a preview. They showed a clip of the movie, and I remember I watched TRL to watch this clip. Like it was usually on like after school. I think Total Request Live was like 3 to 4 or 4 to 5, something like that. Like it was in a period where I'd come home from school and sometimes watch it anyway, but I knew the Star Wars clip was coming on, so I was like, I gotta sit here and watch this. And it was the clip where Anakin jumps off the speeder and lands on Zam's car, and they're doing some of the speed racing. So like,
definitely an intense scene
in my head
that they can show without doing spoilers.
Yeah, George wasn't really concerned with spoilers.
Well, that might be true too.
We had, I remember too, you used to be able to watch a live webcam of them making Revenge of the Sith, I think it was.
Really?
Yeah.
That's kind of...
It was really
high tech for back then. I mean,
2004.
5, 4. It was probably filmed, maybe even earlier. But yeah,
and it was like if you were like a hyperspace member or something, you could watch it. And I remember seeing people talk about it. And I used to I think around this time too for episode 2, I was in around 5th grade. And I was in 5th grade because 2001
sounds accurate. I wasn't in school yet.
Yeah,
so.
2001 was 9/11, and I was in 5th grade then. So this was the end of that year. Yep. And I remember sitting in we had computer class, and when I would finish all of my computer stuff that I had to do, I would go on StarWars.com, and I would do stuff there, and they would always have articles about hey, this is what's going on. They'd have behind the scene pictures with the blue screen and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And kind of give you the behind the scenes.
Yeah. And George didn't care. And also I remember when I was in 8th grade, when Revenge of the Sith came out, the book, the novelization came out 3 months ahead of the movie. And
I do remember that.
I read it. I read it before I went and saw the movie. So I kind of knew everything going on.
I think we had discussed it too at the time.
Yeah. And you know what? I will say the book was better in the spot where they go visit Palpatine to make him step down.
Oh, really? Between
Mace and Kit Fisto and Plo Koon.
Kit Fisto,
not Plo Koon, but Saesee Tin, all the people.
Yeah, Plo Koon sadly died in space.
Agent Kolar.
Plo Koon was always one of my favorites, low key. You don't see him a lot, but he's just such a badass all the time. It seems like.
That's what I was going to ask you because I have it here at the beginning. So before we get in the movie, I'll ask you this stuff too. There's a part of the movie where Padme is meeting with the Chancellor that we'll get to.
Yeah.
But it's Ki-Adi-Mundi, Kit Fisto, Plo Koon, Mace Windu, Yoda, Luminara, and Barriss Offee are all there. And I said, these are top tier prequel Jedi.
It really is. It's the whole gang is there for that scene. It's kind of cool. And I think that kind of, not to, jump ahead, but I think that kind of set up the finale scene very well, where you do see all of those characters again, in action, Yeah.
And I was going to ask you, do you have a favorite background Jedi? So I think it's Plo Koon.
It could be Plo Koon, or I'm a big fan of Kit Fisto too.
That's
I
mine.
really like Kit Fisto. Yeah. That cheeky smile when he does
when the Force pushes 3PO.
Yeah. And the other droid just lands on him. He's like, I'm having fun. I don't know.
Yeah, he was
a nice
having
little
a good
moment.
time with that for sure.
Yeah.
Kit Fisto's been my favorite. I was able to find, they did Funko Pops of him, and he was Walgreens exclusive. I went to Walgreens, picked him up a couple years ago.
There you go.
Met him on the I met him at the Star Wars weekends.
Did you really? Star Wars
weekends, yes.
Wow, I don't think you ever told me that. That's really cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to find the picture and I'll put it up.
You'll have to put it up right now. Yeah,
that's what cool. I'm looking for it right now on Facebook because it was from 2015.
You know what? I may have seen the picture back in the day. Now that I'm thinking about it. Yeah, I did see all of your Star Wars weekend photos at one point. So yeah.
Oh, it was. But I really wish they would.
It was a good photo. Didn't he even do the force push kind of thing with you?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, I wish they would have kept doing Star Wars weekends. I know that they're the bad thing is they're focused so much on we got to make this section of the park canon and have it in universe and stuff, but
also make it relevant to the now sequel series.
Right.
You know?
But also it's like, if you could have it just for a weekend where it's like, okay, well, this weekend it's not in canon and we're going to have all these fan favorite characters.
That would be fantastic.
Or whatever, you know?
Yeah.
And this is, I was able to find the picture. If you're watching, this is
there it is.
The picture of Kit Fisto. So he's been my favorite. I don't know why really, but
he looks so tan there, Jordan. Maybe because you were living in Florida.
I was, yeah. It's the Florida life there.
Yeah.
My hairline was also a little lower.
That, or you just brush it differently. Who knows?
Well, I can put it down, but it is a little higher nowadays.
We're trying to keep you high self-esteem.
Oh, that's right,
now, Jordan.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, we're not talking about hairlines, how tired you look, how old you're looking.
But yeah, so my favorite was Kit Fisto, but I also really liked Ki-Adi-Mundi, and I really liked Eth Koth. So Eth Koth was a Jedi that was a Zabrak. He looked kind of like Agent Kolar. I don't know why they made these two different Jedi. I think it became a continuity thing that then they just kind of brushed up and named, oh, this one's somebody different. I'm looking to see if I can put a picture up of Eth Koth up there as well.
I feel like I've heard the name, but I don't know why. Also, I'm thinking that
there he is.
Oh, yes. Did it? For some reason,
he actually leaves
did he have a green or a purple lightsaber? Because I know that Mace Windu is supposed to have the only purple one, but for some reason, maybe it was in the video games or something, I remember him having a purple one for some reason.
So Eth Koth has a green, and Agent Kolar, who looks almost exactly like him, has a blue. And I think the reason why I think that might be they had to either recast the guy or he had different lightsabers, and the people that make canon stuff was like, okay, now this is somebody different.
Fit. Yeah.
So this is somebody different now.
Makes sense. Not really, but I remember the old Phantom Menace game, I think. Or what was it called? It was like
Jedi Power Battles had Mace Windu with a blue saber because it was before it came out around the time of episode 1, so they had no idea.
They didn't know what it would be. Yeah, makes sense.
And really, he only has purple because Sam Jackson insisted.
Was like, hey, and I don't blame him. When I was watching the film last night, I was like, I thought it was a great decision from Sam Jackson to say, like, let's give Mace Windu his own lightsaber color because he always stands out on screen now.
It pops too.
It does. It looks fantastic.
Yeah, I really like it. I'm not sure if you've ever played like Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Order.
I haven't, but I do want to. Yeah.
It's really good, and they have like tons of the saber colors.
But...
like when you get to a part where you can like change your saber color, I messed around and had like every single color at one point, you know. And when I played with purple, it really popped. Yeah.
Yeah. The games like KOTOR, that, and then
Unleashed.
Movie name. Unleashed. Force Unleashed. That's The Force Awakens. Yes, the new movie.
yeah. They have where you can change your lightsaber in the movie. Yeah. But no, Force Unleashed with Sam
Witwick. Or Whitwer.
Yeah. Who voices Darth Maul in the cartoons.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think I did know that, but yeah.
And he voiced him in Solo too, actually. He's like the official voice for Darth Maul now. So
he's a great actor, man. Ever since we saw him in Smallville and all that.
Yeah, he was Doomsday in Smallville. And it's funny because
actor. I feel like he doesn't get enough work as he should, but
and he's in the game Days Gone now too, like the new game. He's
you're right.
The model of him.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember watching Smallville and seeing Sam Witwer and thinking like, oh, like I don't know if he was familiar at that point, but then when we played Force Unleashed, I'm like, oh, it's the guy from Smallville. And then I started knowing him as Darth Maul. And then now when I rewatched Smallville with my wife, I said, Sam Witwer, I thought of him as Star Wars instead of Smallville. You know, I was like, now he's in my head as Star Wars all the time.
So it started as a Smallville thing, and now it is just Star Wars.
And he was in some show you watched, wasn't he? Like the
he was. I can't remember.
Thing. It was like Become Human or something like that. I don't know.
Beyond
Being Human? Being Human?
Being Human, maybe? Yeah. It was a long time ago, back in high school, I think. But yeah. I don't think I actually watched it like full, like beginning to end, but I do remember watching a good few episodes simply because he was in it. But
Yeah, I looked it up. It is Being Human. It was the U.S. version. They had a
it was like a vampire show, right? Yeah,
I think there was like a vampire and like different animal, like werewolves or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah,
I never watched it, but that's what I thought it was. I thought it was like 3 roommates that were all different.
I think lived together. It might be. It might be like a. It's like a Friends, but with werewolves, Dracula, and I don't know, a witch or something. Perfect. Phoebe the witch.
Right. All right, so let's actually get into the movie.
Yeah, we're getting a little sidetracked.
We've wasted so much time for 16 minutes. Okay, let's go ahead and talk Attack of the Clones. So we open up with the opening crawl, which I thought was, I didn't write it down, but I thought it was actually a really good opening crawl for Attack of the Clones. So for people that don't know, going into this, Attack of the Clones is my least favorite Star Wars movie.
And I will disagree. I have to say Phantom Menace is worse.
Really?
And I don't know if
my favorite prequel.
I don't know if I ever disliked Attack of the Clones more. I feel like I did. I feel like I used to hate Attack of the Clones. But now when I'm rewatching it, there's a lot of stuff that just really plays into the next few films pretty well. So, I mean, obviously it's not like I hate sand. Like there's moments that you just can cringe at and you'll just not enjoy. Like the food eating. It's mostly Padme and Anakin stuff. I feel like are the downsides to this film.
The weakest part.
But it is stuff that you have to establish in this storyline, and you have to make it so by the third one, we're going to have them fully together, and, you know, they have Luke and Leia one day. Yeah. So
here's the opening crawl. I was able to find it. There is unrest in the Galactic Senate. Several thousand solar systems have declared their intentions to leave the Republic. The separatist movement under the leadership of the mysterious Count Dooku has made it difficult for the limited number of Jedi Knights to maintain peace and order in the galaxy. Senator Amidala, the former Queen of Naboo, is returning to the Galactic Senate to vote on a critical issue of creating an army of the Republic to assist the overwhelmed Jedi.
I think that works very well, and it definitely establishes the first scene very well. Because the first scene of Padme's doppelganger, I guess we could call her, getting killed, it totally puts it into perspective immediately. And it allows the film to kind of start off with a bang, literally. But I think it's pretty good overall. Not the worst Star Wars scroll or crawl that I've heard.
No, I really like, and I like the, you know, on a, I guess, visual level, I really like the Naboo ships. They're some of my favorite ships.
Me too. I love the Naboo ships, especially in Phantom Menace.
Yes. Yep.
Even though I was even just the silver bad about it, but
yeah, but even the silver one that you know that gets blown up here.
Yeah,
I think looks really nice.
It does look very good. One thing that I will point out real quick that I noticed last night, I feel like the special effects when the ship gets blown up are looking a little dated now.
Yeah, you know, I actually think most of these hold up. I think as we'll get to it, the droid factory part does not. Like that is
yes. Dated. Okay. So at first, I thought you were referring to the Camino factory, but yeah, later on in the film, when they get to Geonosis, I wanted to say osmosis. I was close enough. Yeah, but yeah, I definitely think that most things hold up in this film, but there are those specific ones that don't, and will take you out of it at times. But
yeah, and we have so then that leads to Padme meeting with the Chancellor. That's where we talked about, you know, Ki-Adi-Mundi, Kit Fisto, Plo Koon, Mace, Yoda, Luminara, Barriss are all meeting with the Chancellor before she walks in. Then she'll walk in and they'll have they said that they'll assign Obi-Wan and Anakin to protect her.
Which obviously is Palpatine's. Actually, today, while I was listening to the commentary, sorry, side note, but I heard someone call Palpatine, what was Palpatine?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know who it was, but it was very interesting. I've never heard him pronounce Palpatine. But anyway, so shit. I hate when I side note.
But yes, Palpatine's plan. You were saying it was his plan.
Oh, yes. Overall, he sent Anakin and Obi-Wan obviously on that journey to find the clones, essentially, and create the clone army to rise his power. And because he has power on both sides, and it is only going to continue to go up on both sides once they find the clones. So,
yeah, and I think this is, when a lot of people give the prequels a lot of grief and stuff, I think one thing I really like about the prequels is showing him manipulating everyone and playing both sides to get ultimately what he wants, which is the full power.
Yeah, perhaps he does have, and it is very predictable, and you know that it's going to happen, but he does have one of the better character arcs of the prequels. And acting, for sure. I mean, the acting is tremendous. So
yeah, Ian McDiarmid is really good.
It is just killer. So
so then we have Obi-Wan and Anakin, then we cut to them in the elevator. They're going to Padme's loft, I guess. And we get we get the dialogue stating that this is 10 years since Phantom Menace, when we now see Anakin 19 years old. Now, we get, also when he gets there, he runs into Jar Jar. This is like, we get barely any Jar Jar in this movie, which I think is obviously George reacting, to the Phantom Menace.
And the criticisms of Jar Jar, And that kind of sucks. Not like I like Jar Jar, but how should I put this? I feel a bit bad that it fell so flat. Like, I feel like the actor did a great job portraying him. I mean, the voice.
He got a lot of death threats and stuff,
Wow. That's just stuff that's uncalled for overall.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. But overall, I guess Jar Jar didn't really have a lot to play in this story. What's he going to do again? Like, accidentally save the day or something once again? This is just Jar Jar's saga.
Instead, he actually causes the whole downfall of the Republic.
He does.
We'll talk about that.
Yeah. So,
Anakin here gives huge creeper vibes, is what I put here. When he says, "You've grown too." I mean, more beautifully.
Oh, yeah. Well, and watching the commentary, it's funny that you mentioned that. I just watched the food eating scene, like 20 minutes ago.
Yeah, where they're cutting up the fruit or whatever.
Yeah, and she was like, so George and Padme,
Natalie Portman.
Portman, that was what I'm thinking of. She stated that most of the dialogue in that scene is actually off script, and at most of the time, Hayden was just bringing up stuff that was a little off kilter. Yeah, for the Star Wars franchise, and I don't know, maybe just Hayden. I don't. Maybe that was some of his ad lib. Who knows? But
so we have that, and the last woman to really make an impression on him is Padme from 10 years ago. So of course he's probably harboring some feelings since he was,
and even mentions that he talks about his dreams multiple times throughout the film, and how like, oh, I wish I could only dream of you in my dreams.
Instead of
as beautiful. Yeah. But then he does have the dream about his mom, and it doesn't go so well. But we'll touch on that in a little bit. Not like that's a big part of Boba Fett, but
we also, so then here's something that we can talk about. It really focuses on Boba Fett. We cut to Jango Fett and Zam Weasel or Wessel.
Yes,
outside.
The first appearance of Jango, essentially. So, and it's a good one.
He gives her the slugs, right?
Yeah,
to use. And do you think, look, I know we just talked about George didn't really care about spoilers as much back then. So there was probably announcements of Jango Fett or whatever. But I do wonder if people weren't as focused on that when they go into theaters. Do they think this is Boba? Because we only see him from the back.
I do think so. Obviously, George probably isn't. He probably had a lot of control. But I doubt he sat there and picked over everything in the trailers. So obviously there is a new Mandalorian. There is a new, bounty hunter. They've kind of established that, I think, in the trailers. But for the movie itself, I do think that they wanted it to be a bit of a mystery and kind of give the audience the perspective that this might be Boba, because it has the same voice, same outfit, stuff like that. And I think that was kind of a good misdirection and kind of a nice little play on it, especially when watching it back. Because last night when I did watch it, I thought the same thing. I was like, maybe they were going for like an angle that this could be Boba Fett.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they take a while to show him up front.
They really do. All the way till Camino, to my knowledge, right? Yeah, until they fully reveal.
When he kills Zam, he just takes off in the distance. Like you
can't
really
it's
see
the jetpack or something, right? Yeah. So, that was a nice little tidbit there of mystery.
Yeah. So I met Zam as well at.
Did you? Yeah. Wow, here he is pulling up the photos. Let's go.
Oh no, if I can find it.
The question is it the hot one or the wrinkly fake one?
Well, she had the mask on, so I wasn't
changeling, as they call them.
Yeah.
Oh, the mask. Well, that's a nice little way of subduing.
Like the little, like the little.
Yes.
Hang up. Yeah. But her eyes look really nice. I will say that.
Oh, wow.
I'll see if I can find the picture.
Your eyes don't look that great, Jordan. You look tired.
I look like I haven't slept in days.
You look like you haven't slept in like light years, dude.
Oh boy. So that was something that we get introduced to this new bounty hunter. Then we get Zam, who I don't even think did they even really say her name in the movie? I'm not even sure.
I think she may mention it while she's dying.
Maybe, yeah.
I could be incorrect, but there is some potential that she mentions it after she gets shot. Because for some reason, I do remember her saying something about just... Actually, maybe she doesn't say her name. She may just kind of state the reason that she was there, which was to kill Padme. I think that was it. Maybe she didn't mention her name. But
yeah, I don't think she did. So I think this is just stuff we know from, the other stuff. Like,
But, Django may have said it in like one little scene. Like when he gives her the darts or gives her the slugs, whatever we're calling them, leeches.
Oh, maybe.
He may have said it there, but I think that would be the only chance for them to have dropped that.
Okay, I did find it. All right. I actually found a few.
There we go.
All right, hold on. Just a minute. I found my pictures. I'm going to add them, but I'm only going to share one right now. Okay, so I do have here it is. This is what I'm
wow.
And you got this guy photobombing me in the background here, smiling for the picture.
Yeah, what an ass.
But yeah, it's a nice costume. Like
she does have great eyes.
Yeah.
And yeah. Good makeup. Looks pretty legit.
Yeah. And then I also met Django.
I like the Django pick. I think the best.
Yeah,
the guy just seems like he knows what he's doing.
He did a few poses too.
Did he?
Did a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
he looked really good. I met Boba too, but not Kid Boba, so it's not relevant.
Oh well.
Could you imagine if they had that like right next to Django? They have like Kid.
They
Boba
have
right
little
there.
Kid Boba. Yeah. One thing I will mention real quick, since we're on the topic of Kid Boba, and I guess we could get into this a little bit later, but I genuinely kind of have grief or problems with the kid that portrayed Kid Boba.
Daniel Logan?
Sure. Yeah.
What was your problem? Like some of his acting?
The main things for me are just the way he talks. I think it could have been better direction too.
Yeah.
Possibly better writing. It's mostly the scenes when they're hunting down Obi-Wan's ship.
Oh yeah.
And he's like, fire! Yeah, it's just like I feel like I'm back with Jake playing Anakin. It's kind of the same aspect. It's the same corniness, and I don't know.
Well, what do you think of one of my favorite lines in the whole movie is delivered by him? And this is I quoted this. I quoted this line as it was happening last night. But when I watched this, it's Dad, Tonway's hair.
Yeah, it sounds great.
I don't know why that one just sticks out to me all the time.
That one sticks out to you
all the time. Yeah,
really?
I quote it every time it comes up. It's just one of those. I don't know. It's not even delivered that well, but it's just one of those lines that
it's just a quotable, something that's stuck in your brain. Yeah.
Yeah, so much so I'm actually making a parody of a song about, and I'm adding Boba Fett in it. That I'm putting Ton Wee's name in it. By the way, so.
All right. Well, if they didn't have that line, Jordan wouldn't have his song. So
there you go. But yeah, so Zam releases the leeches or slugs, whatever they are, into Padme's room. And Anakin and Obi-Wan are kind of bickering, and they sense something's wrong, and he goes in, Anakin does, and saves her, in the nick of time. Obi-Wan is just going to, like, barge through the window and grab the droid, and...
Which, can I say real quick, that seems so out of Obi-Wan's element. And I was watching the commentary last night, and George literally goes, oh, yeah, I thought it would be a good decision. Obi-Wan's so, like... ready to find out who's up to this, that he's going to jump on the droid. Obi-Wan doesn't like flying. Obi-Wan doesn't really like anything to do with like traveling through the air from what I can tell.
Can I like explain
Go ahead.
it away?
You can rebuttal. You can rebuttal. Go ahead.
I'm going to come up with something stupid here, but I'm thinking, he's like, okay, I'm going to grab the droid.
Yeah.
Right? Or grab whatever this is. And I think he's thinking, this is a good idea. And then I think when he's doing it and he's actually then stuck on him,
it becomes a bad idea.
What did I do this for?
Yeah, that actually sort of makes sense. Maybe he thought it would just kind of fall, but also you're falling to your death with it. So
maybe he didn't think it was going to go as far as it did. Maybe he thought like the person was closer by, or maybe he's just acting on instinct. And then when it happens, he's like, man, I really,
I done goofed.
I really made a mistake. So yeah, Anakin jumps in a speeder to try to catch up. And this is the scene that I saw on the Total Request Live before the movie came out. So, and they eventually do get caught up to Zam in the Anakin's going to jump off the thing. He's going to go onto her ship with the lightsaber.
Dun, dun. I hate when he does that. That whole scene. Yeah.
Yeah, and then he falls and loses his lightsaber, right? Which Obi-Wan
luckily catches and goes, "Oh, don't do that again."
Yeah, and then after that, we get them going into the cantina, like the little underground cantina thing.
Yeah, I guess you could call it a cantina.
It's a bar, right?
It's a bit more of a like Mass Effect Omega style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To put
that's
that
what I
in
thought.
And I like it. It's but it also kind of takes me back to where it's like, so, and I guess it's different planets.
Mm-hmm.
That's a fair point. But like the cantina in the original Star Wars is like this dilapidated, broken down building, essentially full of scum. This one's more of like a nightclub. I guess it's Coruscant, so that works.
This is like a little bit like a Dave and Buster's. They got the TV screens with all the sporting events.
Yeah.
They got some gambling going on. Like it's a little bit more because it's on the capital of the Republic. I think it's a little cleaner, right? Like
you
get some guy saying I'll sell you death sticks, but like otherwise I don't think it's as much, scum and villainy going on here.
Fun fact, that guy that played that character had no idea those antennas were going to be on his head.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just a fun fact. Yeah.
Was that in the commentary?
It was. Originally it was not like a planned gag, I suppose, but they were like, let's add a little extra to this character.
To make him look more alien, yeah.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah. Interesting fact.
But yeah, so she's about to, when they do catch her, she's about to give the name of Jango Fett when Jango kills her. And it's a toxic dart, and Obi-Wan takes it for examination. So I want to ask you about the changeling, because I don't think we know much about it.
Not at all.
Is her main form, you think, the ugly shriveled up thing, or did the toxic dart make her shriveled up? Like, I'm not really sure what we're supposed to believe.
The shriveled up part is definitely her actual look.
Yeah, because it flashes a bit when she turns her head. Time, right?
Exactly, and I think it had to do with her anxiousness or whatever of Anakin being on the top. It, kind of made her change. Or...
broke concentration.
Yes, exactly. That's a good way of putting it. Yes, it broke her phoniness.
Right.
Her false look. Yep.
So we get Obi-Wan and Anakin telling the council about all of this, and Obi-Wan is tasked to track down Jango, while Anakin is assigned to watch over Padme and take her back to Naboo. And really, probably, mistake number 1 or 2 here on the Jedi here today. I mean, because this is going to lead to him having more time alone with her, falling more in love with her, ending up getting married, ending up.
But remember, all of this is set in stone by Palpatine. So.
Yeah, by Palpatine, yeah. By old Sheev, yeah.
Yeah.
So then Obi-Wan talks to Yoda and Mace before they leave, and he worries about Anakin's arrogance. And Yoda agrees that the Jedi are arrogant as well, just that Jedi are arrogant.
In general.
In general. And I think this also ties into the arrogance that leads to the downfall of the Republic. You know, as we'll talk about later on, when Obi-Wan's told by Dooku himself that, hey, the leader of the Republic is a Sith Lord, they pretty much laugh him off and or think he's lying to play head games. But it's really their own arrogance that makes them
comes in the way of them being like, oh, yeah, it is Palpatine, you know? So,
yeah. And they fall right into the plan.
Yeah.
And then mistake number 1 for Padme is putting Jar Jar in charge here is what's going to happen there.
It's either that or falling in love with a guy that's sitting there talking about how much he hates sand. I don't know.
There's worse stuff to fall in love with that we'll talk about that he says later.
Well, that's true.
Anakin and Padme and R2 are heading off to Naboo, and Obi-Wan's like, I got to visit my friend Dex. And we get Dexter Jester, right, at Jetser, at the Dex Diner, and Obi-Wan shows him the toxic dart. He explains that the droids or whatever couldn't tell what it was from.
Yep.
And Dex pretty much says this because the droids are only looking at symbols and doesn't analyze the full thing. And Dex notices it and says it's from Kamino, from the cloners on Kamino. And Obi-Wan says he's not familiar with it, and Dex says it's in the Outer Rim. And that's pretty much it. Then we get Obi-Wan going back to the archives. But what you think of Dex here? A little ambitious CGI, right? But
yeah, I really like Dex. I thought he was a really good character. I love the voice for him, which when I was listening to the commentary, George Lucas kind of touched on that they originally made his voice a lot deeper and they pitch shifted it. So
okay.
Yeah, it would be it would kind of fit his body look. You know, he's kind of a shorter guy that's also very hefty. And they kind of wanted his voice to match that, but they ended up going back and keeping it more close to the original voice because it was a little too hard for people to understand the deep boomingness of the other voice.
I really, this another line I quote all the time with it is how big your pocketbook is.
Yeah,
I love the way he delivers that.
Yeah, that is a really good delivery. Good line too. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love that delivery.
Yeah.
So then Obi-Wan goes to speak to Jocasta Nu in the archives. And again, Jedi arrogance here. If it does not exist in our archives, it doesn't exist.
So just a quick fun fact for you, or I don't know if there's actual genuine truth to this. The librarian, right? The woman that, or whatever you'd like to call her, the archivist, something. The woman that Obi-Wan's speaking to in that scene, I've heard that she is actually a undercover Sith.
I don't think it's canon.
Okay.
I'll check Jocasta Nu's page here. Okay. But
there's a lot of speculation that she was Snoke at the time of Force Awakens.
Oh, really?
Really? I'm not messing around. I've looked into a lot of little weird things lately.
Let's see. So she is. Let me make sure I'm on the canon and not the legends page for this person.
Yeah,
I'm on canon. Okay, because Wikipedia has both. They sort it very nicely. So she was. Wow, I didn't know the person that played her is a comedian. Pretty funny. I thought she played a librarian very well. Like her just attitude was very well.
Yeah, it just seemed like a stickler, like, sorry, Obi-Wan, Master Kenobi, we don't have it. See you later. I'm done with helping you. Yeah.
So she is. No, she was not a Sith. I'll tell you that much. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
She does live past the Jedi Purge, apparently. Yeah. But she will die.
She's a Sith. I don't
know.
But she will die.
I think she might even be referenced in Fallen Order. I'm not sure.
Interesting. I'd be very interested if they took that random character and
she's mentioned. Yeah, she's mentioned in Fallen Order. Yep.
Interesting. Fun fact.
Yeah, but so obviously, I think it's supposed to be the person that erased it from the archives is Dooku, right? Before he left the Order.
I'm assuming that, but I also kind of figured it could be her. I don't know. She seemed a little odd to me. Seemed like she didn't really want to help Obi-Wan much. Maybe she's just a little sad sack librarian. I don't know, but.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much what she.
Yeah, she just didn't seem like she wanted to be involved or help, but.
Yeah. She was appointed chief librarian in 68 years before the Battle of Yavin, so before Episode 4.
Okay. Yeah.
And Dooku and her were friendly, but I think he might use that. I think he uses that to be able to erase it without her knowing. I do think she.
Oh, that could be a good idea.
I think he might be buddy with her to kind of get in there, but. And actually, there is I think a deleted scene of her maybe talking about Dooku, because when she comes over to find Obi-Wan, that's what he's looking at. He's looking at a bust of Dooku. So those busts in the Jedi archives are of the fallen Jedi who fell to the dark side. Or left the Order.
Just curious, why would they have busts of them in their archives? Just
so I'm not sure if it's all of them. I'm not sure if it's all the ones that fell to the dark side, or if it's supposed to be like there's ones that have like willingly left the Order that they have busts of. They're called like the Fallen. Is that right? I don't know.
Interesting.
Let me try to look this up.
I didn't piece those together, honestly.
Yeah, and you can buy like these. Oh, the Lost 20 are what they're called. Yeah.
So what was it? 20 Jedi then, or
a group of Jedi, 20 Jedi masters who left the Order throughout its history.
Huh.
They become delusioned with the Jedi way of life and leave. So then after that, I don't think they knew he was dark side at that point. So they have like busts of just Jedi that leave.
So he may have just left.
He's just saying, I'm gone.
Yeah. Well, that's a good way to do your evil bidding.
Right.
Not let anybody know. Yes, I am going to the dark side. I'm done with you guys. See ya.
Right.
Thank you for teaching me all this stuff.
So then Obi-Wan goes to Yoda for guidance after this, and the little kid comes up with maybe someone erased it, which is a very simple answer that a lot of people don't think about, because they're thinking nobody's going to go in and erase something out of the archives, right? So
yeah.
Sometimes you just need the simplicity of
you need a child's mind.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. Pretty sure Yoda said something like that. I tried.
Yeah, it's like the wonder of a child mind or something.
The wonder of a child's mind is better than ours.
Your Yoda is on point.
And then goddamn Anakin probably killed that youngling in the next one.
Probably,
so he could have been the next Luke Skywalker, man. He was smart.
Anakin and Padme land in Naboo, and we get them talking to the Queen, and we get one of my favorite prequel actors in the scene. C.O. Bibble is that, you know, in Phantom Menace, the one's like, you must contact me, you know. Communication, what is it? Negotiations. We've lost all communication.
Yeah.
Love that guy.
It is a good line, too, in that one.
I saw him I watched Poirot, the show about, you know, like the detective. It's a BBC show from like the 80s all the way up to the 2000s. They did these episodes. Kind of like a Monk. Monk is kind of based off Poirot.
Interesting.
But Agatha Christie novels made into a TV show. And cool. In one of these episodes I was watching, it was C.O. Bibble, the guy who plays him.
Really?
From like the late 80s. And I was like, he looks so familiar. What is he? I looked him up and I was like, oh, it's the guy from Phantom Menace. Which was awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So Padme's speaking to the queen and she says they're going to go stay in the lake country. And, you know, Anakin interjects for whatever reason, thinking that
is it lake country or like waterfall country? Can I just
throw
that little bit out there? I don't see a lot of lakes. I see like 10 waterfalls throughout that sequence.
That's true. Yeah. I guess the waterfalls are going into a lake, right? So I don't know.
The waterfalls are coming from a lake. I mean, who knows?
I think it's the spot where they get married later, right? So it looks over water.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, that's true.
And we get Obi-Wan arriving at Kamino, and the Kaminoans say the Jedi are welcomed here because they're under the impression the Jedi are the ones to order the clone army, Master Sifo Dyas. So it's come out in canon later, I think, that Dooku posed to Sifo Dyas to put the order in. Because Sifo Dyas, as Obi-Wan says, died. And let's, I guess, talk about this on George's part. You know, like
the writing.
Yeah, the writing.
Yeah.
So it says he died in 32 years before Battle of Yavin, which would be this was around the time of Episode 1. So we're never introduced to Sifo Dyas really.
This is all kind of interesting to me. I
think he's in the Clone Wars. He's actually in the Clone Wars, I think.
In like the animated
as a flashback, yeah. And when they look up his records and you see what he actually looks like. But
yeah, I kind of was always under the assumption that Dooku kind of just made up this persona and they just kind of fell for it. It's just what I assumed. I figured it was like and also Sifo Dyas kind of like, for some reason to me, seems more like a Sith kind of name. I don't know why. So I just kind of assumed that was like his other title, you know?
Well, I'll tell you.
Some have Vader.
I'll tell you why it sounds like that. Okay, what does the name Sifo Dyas sound like? Because I'll tell you what it was originally spelled as. I'll show it as it was originally spelled as. Okay, SIDO-DYAS.
Oh, Sidious, almost. Yes. Yeah.
So originally, in the early drafts of the script, the Jedi who contacted the Kaminoans was Sido Dyas, a false identity for Darth Sidious. Obi-Wan claims to never have heard of him, and Mace Windu confirmed no Jedi of the name existed. So in that, and then they changed it in another draft to be Sifo Dyas, and an actual Jedi that died, that I guess once he died, Dooku decides, I'm going to go pose as him. I like
the original better.
Yeah. I think that's,
and it's kind of how I came to understand it anyway. I thought it was just like a false name or something like that, you know? Yeah. Interesting though. I never did put the Sidious Sifo Dyas together really till now. Cool.
Yeah, and so there is a episode of the Clone Wars about this in season 6. It is a Jedi mission finds a lightsaber belonging to the long-dead Master Sifo Dyas, which prompts Yoda, Obi-Wan, and Anakin to begin an investigation into his decade-old disappearance. And this sparks Darth Sidious to order Count Dooku to clean up any loose ends that might lead to the Jedi to discover the truth of the Sith conspiracy. But yeah, so that was the original plan of it here. But so I think it makes more sense to keep it the original way, but I'm not sure what led George to make the change, but also just change like 2 letters of the name or 1 letter of the name to make it close, but not exactly.
Not exactly, but
right.
At the same time, you made it a little too different for like us, the audience, to kind of put it together where we already know these characters. And
I remember there being like lots of speculation on like the internet and stuff after this about like who Sifo Dyas was, because it was the only mention we ever had of him. It wasn't linked to anybody we met in Phantom Menace or anything,
or even in Revenge of the Sith. They don't bring it back up, so yeah.
So it's interesting. But Obi-Wan is then led to Lama Su, who runs the plant.
Sorry. I also had thought that Sifo Dyas might also be Palpatine's master. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. But
Plagueis.
Plagueis. Yeah, I thought it might have been like Plagueis acting as someone originally. Obviously, it's Dooku. But that kind of was something that was going through my head a little bit.
So Dooku
does the films.
Dooku hires people to target Sifo Dyas, and they're the reason why Sifo Dyas dies. So it is kind of like linked to him. Like, I guess Dooku defeats him and then just kind of assumes his...
Just takes his persona or name.
Yeah, so
that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
guess that it makes more... I can see why George went this way then, because then would the Jedi want to use clones that were ordered by somebody that they don't have record of it being a Jedi? You know what I'm saying? Like, at least with this, they're like, oh, Sifo Dyas ordered these? Like, that's weird, but he's one of us. Like, whatever.
Yeah. He did this a while ago, like,
right before he died. Like
back strange. When Qui-Gon was around. So, yeah.
Okay, let's get back
to... didn't they also make a note of that at some point? Is that... I thought there was some sort of relation between Sifo Dyas and Qui-Gon Jinn. Am I wrong?
Yeah, I think you're wrong. They do mention Qui-Gon at the end of the movie with Dooku talking about it.
I thought when they're at Kamino, she mentions Qui-Gon at some point.
Not
or maybe only Obi-Wan does, but I think one of them do mention Qui-Gon Jinn at some point during that transaction of them talking. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
I should have written notes, but
Anakin and Padme then talk. This is where he says, "I don't like sand," which is for some reason really meme worthy.
It kind of is meme worthy. Just saying, it is just such a odd statement to put in there. I mean, we get it. You grew up on Tatooine. You don't like sand.
Right.
Did we really have to state it though? Just just adds to the runtime for me, but
yeah. Well, I mean, I think the one part that can really be cut out pretty quickly is the droid factory. I think if you cut that down, that's like a 10-minute.
Definitely cut it down. I don't think we could get rid of it completely.
You just have to find some way to get them captured. That's really it. Like the 3PO-R2 stuff does nothing in that scene.
All it's supposed to be is some sort of comic relief that honestly did not land for me. Yeah. Yep.
It landed for you when you were 5.
Well, you're right, Jordan. I also was like a huge fan of Anakin and his sand, but yeah.
So then Obi-Wan is getting the tour, and they say they're superior to droids, right? They have great combat education, growth acceleration, they're obedient, and Jango Fett is like the host or like the
top,
DNA.
Yeah, he's a top bounty hunter, so obviously they'll have his skills, So
and we get our first reference of Boba here when they say Fett demanded an unaltered clone for himself with no tampering. This will be Boba Fett. So let's get into that then. What is your thoughts of George making Boba a clone of his father?
I think it was a great decision, honestly. I think him, because you get to see Boba as Jango's character, if that makes any sort of sense. You kind of grew up with this sense that Boba Fett is this badass guy but you never really get to see too much of him in the original series or trilogy.
Barely at all, yeah.
Yeah. Besides like a few good moments, but he instantly became a fan favorite due to his look and his aesthetic. But now I feel like Jango kind of gets to show you what that was all based on. You know, Boba actually isn't Jango, the prime version, perhaps, compared to Boba, because Boba also didn't really get his training, essentially. Maybe he did gain some of the skills, but he didn't really get his training. So it's interesting to see Jango and his approach to things and all. It's kind of like Boba 1.0. You know what I mean? It's very interesting to me to see that kind of transition instead of it actually being his son or something like that. It is just a clone.
Yeah. And I think
we can dissect it a bit more. And
yeah, we have so then Anakin and Padme roll in the grass, blah blah blah. Okay, we're back to Kamino again, and this is where we actually get our first sighting of Boba Fett when he answers the door for Tonway and Obi-Wan.
Yeah, your favorite line of the
film. Favorite line of the movie. Dad, Tonway's here.
Oh yeah.
Jango introduces himself. Boba hides the armor. Jango says he was hired by a man named Tyrannus, which we learn is
Darth Tyrannus.
Dooku, Darth.
Right, yeah.
Right, Tyrannus. So I think a lot of people probably hated this at first, right? I think I remember this being controversial that Boba was a clone to Jango. Like, I think a lot of people, fans of the original trilogy, I think they didn't like this as much because I think they thought it made Boba inferior to Jango, saying that Jango was his model.
It kind of does.
But he is unaltered, so he's not as... You know, the clones are going to be more... The clones are like more... Like, they can have specialties and stuff, and if people watch The Bad Batch, there's a whole premise of the 4 or 5 clones that have been even more altered to only Hunter and a Wrecker that do certain things. They have
their specific specialties, essentially, yeah.
But Boba's unaltered, so he's just strictly his dad's DNA, but everything else he does is not from cloning. He is just, a good bounty hunter himself.
And he also has learned from his father what to do and what not to do.
And I'll tell you way later on when we get there that he's smarter than his father.
He is. I agree with you.
He is smarter than his father.
Absolutely. The way that he battles Mace Windu in that situation was not smart at all, in my opinion, on Jango's part. And that goes to show with Boba, especially if you're going to be like, okay, well, let's put this into perspective from what we see from Return of the Jedi and what Boba does there. Yes, he has a clumsy end, but it is also one that, I don't know if it's exactly canon or not. He survives.
It's canon, right? It's Mandalorian.
I mean, at this point, yeah. At this point, it is. Yeah. At the time of the film, maybe not, but...
Right.
Yeah, so... you definitely get to see these interesting comparisons of how he did learn from his father's or,
mistakes.
Mistakes. And
what's something you brought up that I didn't even think of when you talked about how he handled Luke. Like, if you talk about how he handles Luke, you know, Jango lets Mace run at him, right?
Yeah, that's his run right at him, doesn't move. But Jango...
He wraps up Luke.
Yep, he wraps him up, and he also uses his jetpack tremendously. Like he barely stays in one spot. So that kind of puts that in perspective that he saw his dad just stand there and maybe that's Jango's arrogance or something. Right. But it definitely taught Boba a lesson.
George, right? I mean, this wasn't in George's mind when he wrote Return of the
Jedi. Obviously not.
It's
yeah.
But it's fun parallels with that because there's another version of this that we see with I'll skip ahead to it now because we'll talk about it then too. But when Jango's unleashing those seismic charges and then he gets the missile that goes out after Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan releases the junk, right? He powers off this thing and hides, and it fools Jango. But in Empire Strikes Back, Han tries the same thing with floating.
Yeah, when he goes into the crater or whatever.
And when when they're on the back of the Star Destroyer and then they release the trash and he just goes with it and then turns it on, Boba is waiting and he sees that and he takes off after Han and follows him to Bespin. So he learns from this moment with Obi-Wan where his dad failed.
Yeah. Or was tricked. I wouldn't necessarily call it a failure, but he was fooled.
Right.
And Boba won't be fooled by that same trick again. So
exactly.
Yeah.
He learns from it.
It goes to show a bit of character progression. And I found it very interesting. Some of the best parts of this film are the Boba Jango stuff, in my opinion. I liked seeing the Slave One. I liked seeing Boba learning to drive it. I like seeing that he essentially got left with it. So now we can just picture him going from this little kid on his own, driving around this massive bounty hunter ship on his own.
Right.
With the things that he did learn from his father. It's a very interesting arc and dynamic to the way they went about showing Boba growing up, to me.
And also what's cool is about this, with his father being the clone, like his father being like the original, original for all these clones, is he's going to grow up, and we're going to get this in Mandalorian too with the reference from Bo-Katan at one point. But when we get, Boba after his father's death is going to see his father's face everywhere with all the clones.
Absolutely.
He's going to hear his father's voice everywhere. It's also his voice.
And it's his own.
It's also his face. So he's got like this weird dynamic with the clones that I think make him feel
superior, but I'm not your creator.
But not even that, but also maybe a little...
Your brothers, almost.
They're like brothers, but they're also on the other side, but they're also... He thinks of maybe himself as not being as special then. There's a million of these out there.
That's true.
There's a million of me out there, and it makes you think, how can I fit in and be special?
Well, and maybe it's not even about fitting in. Maybe it's more about...
How do I stand out?
Yeah, or how do I want to make myself even more... obviously he wasn't altered. So how do I make myself even more individual?
How do I make myself better than these altered clones to stand out?
Yeah, it's always kind of like a stepping stone or something where he's like, I need to be better than all of these clones. I am the original son, Yeah. So kind of like living up to the legend, essentially.
Right.
Something like that, yeah.
Obi-Wan is ready to leave. Well, hold on. I do have back to Naboo. Anakin comes on strong. That's what I put. Okay. I think that's the food scene. Then Obi-Wan.
He does come on strong, yeah.
Obi-Wan is ready to leave. He asks R4 to call the council. He explains the plot to Mace and Yoda. And, Yoda says, blind we are if the creation of this clone army we could not see. So he's starting to realize that, okay, we're missing something, right?
Yeah,
but
there's something falling through the cracks here.
Later on, when they're presented with, okay, Dooku told us that that Sidious is, like the Chancellor, pretty much.
Yes.
He disregards it. So it's like he realizes something's going on, but then the arrogance again of just
there's
not that.
Yeah, but there's no way that he could be in on this. And right. Exactly. It is interesting to see how some of the characters do, in their own way, figure out the truth, but then they will just disregard it because they just have too much trust, or maybe the Chancellor has too much power, where it's just kind of like, there's no way that he could be in charge of all of this and still be swindling us, or And
I think part of it is so much faith in the democracy, right? That okay,
and
if he's Chancellor, it's going to end. Like his reign's going to end at some point, so we're fine. And at that point, there's no hint of the emergency powers, right? Or the fact that he's going to keep having those emergency powers and the Revenge of the Sith and all that.
Well, and exactly. There's no also real indication that there is any other threat until later on in the film, where you're like, okay, well, Dooku is a Sith, and obviously someone is in charge of him. The main threat at this point was the Geonosians and all.
Yes.
And so it's kind of a red herring almost. Like, yeah, there is this robot army and the Geonosians, but we don't actually think there are that many, at least, genuine Sith out there, which you kind of learn that's not true. We have Dooku, we've got Sidious, we've got do I have one more that we've got Maul, obviously, but like there are more underground Sith that I feel like they don't know exist.
Well, yeah, so that's something that
and they don't take the threat seriously.
So that's one thing I wonder. Do they think Dooku was the master of Darth Maul? Because they mentioned at the end of Phantom Menace, always two, right? We killed the apprentice, right? Or the master. We're not sure, right? They say, like, which one did we kill, the master or the apprentice, right? So do they think then that Dooku was, okay, they see Dooku now and they're like, well, okay, that makes sense. He was the leader of Darth Maul.
He was the master. He was the apprentice. And I do think that is the case. In my opinion, I would think, and it makes a lot of sense, except to us, the audience, where we have seen the Emperor,
right,
Sidious, talking to Maul before, so we know it's not Dooku. Because
now, do you think the way that this is shot, that they want you to not know that the Palpatine is the Chancellor? Because
I think they totally do.
Okay,
there's
because
no
I saw some people like who were genuinely surprised when they watched these movies 1 through 6 in that order that he was. I'm like, it's the same chin, just
Jordan.
Like
and it's the same voice.
It's the same.
Can
voice.
you not tell the? I mean, that
he
voice.
He puts a little toner, like
a little raspier.
Yeah, do it. Raspier,
Do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Meanwhile, he's just like, yes, Anakin. I think that you should betray Obi-Wan.
And Dooku tells Obi-Wan that, and I feel like the audience at that point is like, well, yeah, Obi-Wan, wake up. But I saw some people who were actually surprised at this, saying it's a really good twist, and I was like, what? No,
it's not a good twist. But what could have been a good twist was Obi-Wan actually taking what Dooku says into granite. Like, he takes it for face value, and he actually considers it. I think that could have been a bit better, where Obi-Wan does start to get these inklings and question whether or not Dooku's telling the truth and what side. It kind of would have been interesting to see Obi-Wan kind of fall into a bit of a gray area,
right,
in that moment, instead of just denying it flat out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I guess it needed to let him continue having Anakin have contact, right? I mean, I don't know how else.
Well, obviously, and I don't think it should have been, oh, yes, I totally take your word for granted.
A little bit more suspicious, right?
Exactly. And I feel like that suspicion never does get played out until like well into 3. You know what I mean?
I will say, though, there is something at the beginning where we really get Obi-Wan's point of view on politicians anyway, right? Like, at the beginning of the movie, he tells Anakin, like, she's a politician. Like, they only care about what the people who put them in power think, like they're donors.
Yeah, you're going to do exactly.
Right.
Yeah, it's it reminds me of the real world, you know, the backers.
Yeah. He's very
level-headed
with that. Yeah. Anakin really buys into Palpatine, right? Anakin's response was, he's a really good man. He's not like them, you know, when he's talking about Palpatine, and it's like, okay, you already fell for it.
He kind of takes other people's words for granted too.
Yeah.
Because there's other people that will kind of sit there and talk to Anakin about Palpatine throughout this and the third film. And it definitely plays with his mind, you know?
Yeah. Anakin dreams about his mom dying. And he's going to go to Tatooine to save his mom. And then we get back to Obi-Wan, who is leaving and catches Jango, like packing up the Slave One. And we get the battle scene here. Boba joins in and starts firing some guns, you know, from the ship.
Goes to show he already has experience with the Slave One.
Yeah, true. Jango thinks he won and climbs back up. By the time Obi-Wan runs all the way back up there, they're gone. But he's able to throw a tracker, which is going to lead us to that scene of them with the seismic charges.
I think they tracked us. Something, yeah.
That's where I stopped last night. So when I woke up this morning, I started with I started with Anakin arriving on Tatooine and talking with Watto.
Which it's always nice to see your other least favorite CGI character again. Besides
Only money.
Jar Jar, yeah, those two just hand in hand, they're great.
Yeah, Watto is confused at first, and he realizes it's Anakin, and Anakin's looking for his mom, and he says that he sold his mom to Klieg Lars, who freed and married her. So do you think this is something where like Klieg Lars doesn't actually have any slaves, right? Because and maybe he just found Shmi and like they got kind of cozy and he's like, I'm gonna buy her and free her? Or is it like he needed a slave, which is disgusting, he got Shmi and then fell in love with his slave and freed her? Because that'd be kind of twisted.
So I see both sides of the story, and the only one that kind of stands out to me where I could give a definitive answer is that he's kind of bedridden, right? He's in like this wheelchair sort of thing.
Only bedridden after he looked for Shmi. He got his arm.
Okay, so he got
leg,
messed up by the sand.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then there is a definite possibility that he just came across her and bought her. And I mean, this kind of sounds old school, but it sounds like he kind of just bought her with the intentions of marrying her.
That's what I think.
And if it was a slave sort of deal, he doesn't come across to me as a character that would do anything too vicious or nasty or something. So I don't think it was like, oh, I'm buying you, so now you'll
right.
F me. Yeah. I think it's more of the case of, he really liked her, so he bought her. That's what we'd like to think anyway, right?
Yeah, I'd like to
think
that's
a controversial take, Jordan. Yeah.
I'd like to think he was a hero and
saved her from Watto.
Instead of like, oh, I actually fell in love with my slave and I'm gonna free her now. Like that's a little slimy.
Yeah, and it's also a bit archaic for George's style of writing. I don't think he would really put that in there, but
right.
And
we don't see ever Owen and Aunt Beru owning slaves. They just have Luke helping around, even when they're in tough times.
And what you do see, even in that same scene when Anakin comes, is that they have robots already there. They have 3PO. They have other robots doing the work, so I don't think they would use human slaves.
Right.
In my opinion.
And they go with droids in A New Hope as well. So I do think that the Larses are good people. So
I think
as Anakin will say.
And I will say they're probably also lower on the financial food chain than most other people on Tatooine.
So he used like all his savings, you mean, to like get her out?
That's what I'm thinking. Honestly, or maybe not all of them, but I do think it wasn't just like, oh, we're big old moisture farmers or whatever they're called. And I definitely think it was a tale of savior or,
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
So that's where we get the seismic charges thing. Then we get back to Anakin. They arrive at the Lars homestead. We see 3PO. We see Owen and Beru. Owen is now the stepbrother to Anakin, which actually does make him Uncle Owen to Luke.
Yep.
So this is...
and I loved that.
Yes.
I thought that was such a good little thing to throw in there. You get to see the Larses, not wheelchair Lars, but actually Uncle Owen and Aunt
Beru.
Aunt Beru. I always want to say Lucille, but that's from Arrested Development.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're coming back, by the way. They're coming back for the Obi-Wan series.
Are they? Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That's great.
Same actors. Yep. They're coming back for Obi-Wan. Yeah, it's going to be great.
That's well deserved.
Because that's actually Joel Edgerton, I think. He's actually
It is, yeah. He's a well-known actor. Yeah. No, I recognized him last night. I was like, whoa, wait a minute. Yeah. I looked into it. Yeah, interesting, right?
Yeah, so he's coming back for Obi-Wan.
And Peru, though, I mean, you're still a nobody. You get killed first anyway, right? Something.
Yeah. Who does play Amperu in the
Attack of the Clones or New Hope?
In Attack of the Clones, I think it's this person named Bonnie Piesse.
Yeah, it was someone that I had personally never seen their work.
Yeah, she's also in Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, but
they probably have like a little sequence there.
At the end when they
oh yes, of course. Yep.
Yeah, so she was in she's another Australian like Joel Egerton. So I wonder if that's where they filmed some of that stuff, or they just hired I know they filmed some of the soundstage stuff in Australia.
I was gonna say there's a lot of potential behind your idea there, because all the sand and the sand. I hate sand. Yeah, I mean Australia works for that. So
So they mentioned that Shmi is missing for a month. She was like on her way back home from a market.
Yeah, the tracks stuff at the market.
Klieg says the tracks show she was like halfway home. And I really like George. Really did have some really good direction styles. I
agree. I think. Sorry,
that's right.
Just the prequel series gets a lot of flack, and I definitely see a good portion of the things people complain about. But what I do have to say is George did probably the best job he could with trying to take what he did 30 some years ago and put it into this new story that still takes you back and gives all of our original characters their backstory. I think, especially with Obi-Wan, I think Obi-Wan is definitely one of the most fleshed out characters. I was pretty impressed with just the little minute stuff, especially with Boba Fett too. Like seeing the stuff of him growing up with his dad, to me, his clone father or whatever, it really stood out to me of being some good writing and maybe not the best execution.
Yeah. I do think, some of the writing issues, I think, are just some of the word choices that he had used and stuff. But there's some really...
And the midichlorians...
I'm fine with midichlorians, honestly.
I am too, but just, it is a problem that a lot of people have. And I think it's just interesting to see how he decided to go about that. And then we also disregard it kind of completely eventually.
Yeah, that's something he doesn't really touch on again because he knows
it's so back and forth between the midichlorians. Yeah. And then later on in the sequel series, Luke goes, "Oh, you don't need."
Well, I mean, I think they do mention.
I don't think so.
I mean, they don't mention midichlorians by name, but
they don't.
But it's something everybody has. Every single person has midichlorians, but the amount of them, it just shows how powerful you can be in the Force. So here is what I was talking about. Really great direction. I really like this scene here when he's telling Padme he has to leave. How it's just shadows on the household of
it's some fantastic cinematography.
Yeah, and I think he's done this a lot better, more in the sequel. I mean, in the prequels than he did in the originals. Like, he only directed A New Hope. The other two were directed by other people after he wrote the scripts. Yeah, but he was always on set. But some of the visuals like this, and also when he starts going after the Tuskens and he meets with the Jawas and you see that shot is beautiful.
It is. Not only that, but I mean, all the action sequences, especially the final battle between Anakin and Obi-Wan and Dooku. That in my mind is one of the most standout scenes when Anakin cuts out the lights and the lights are flickering. It's just, the way it's shot and gone about is very interesting. But I can definitely see what you're probably attempting to say is like the shadows create more of with the light around them. It almost is more like symbolism or something like that.
What I really liked about it is just that it's a very interesting way to show the scene. It's literally just a scene of Anakin saying, "I have to go find my mom." But the way that it's shot is like this interesting way where like
creates more depth.
Yes. You don't actually see him say it. It's just the the shadows there, and it's just because
and it's physical emotion from the shadows.
And we see her come out of the hut, not as a shadow, and we see him standing there without a shadow. But it's like when she approaches him, it switches to this, and I think it's really cool. And then the other thing I want to share, this is the sandcrawler thing with the Jawas. I really like this view as well.
Yes, I'm so glad that you brought up that scene. It is one of the best filmed scenes in the movie. I don't know how much of it. I'm sure like the actual ships and all were CGI, but I'm curious about like the speeder bike and all the shadows that are created. They're very well done.
And I think this is right after he says he's going to leave. This is kind of like the culmination of, if you want to read into symbolism of the shadows, him falling into the darkness, right? He's going to lead into his darkness here, and he's going to kill all these. And
also the light is coming down. Like,
yes, the sun is setting.
The last we saw is him with Padme, and the light was fairly bright with that scene. And now in this one, it's a bit darker. And then once we actually get to the Tusken Raiders camp, we're at pitch black.
Yep. And we get the Duel of the Fates song playing during this ride here, too. It's really great. Best prequel song, definitely.
Yeah.
So we get back to Obi-Wan. He sees the meeting of the Separatists. He also sees the droid factories. We're introduced to Count Dooku for the first time in the movie, like this late.
Yeah, that could have been a better decision on their end. I could have pictured Count Dooku coming into play the way I would have done it if it was my decision and I had all of this massive budget. I probably would have had Dooku play a small part in Phantom Menace if I wanted his role to, because I feel like he gets a nice like middle spot. We don't really get to see the beginning of Dooku's role in the like films, the trilogy. We get to see him kind of in a middle area,
and we see the very end of it at the beginning of Revenge
exactly.
Of the Sith. We don't see much of Dooku at all.
Yeah. So what would have been nice for me personally is that we get to see Dooku at the end of Phantom Menace. We get to see him for the majority of Attack of the Clones, and then at the beginning of its Revenge of the Sith, he gets killed. That kind of could have been a way to fit his arc a bit better.
Look, as much as I love Phantom Menace, if I could say it, if George wanted to shore this up a little bit more, we go to Phantom Menace not being fully 10 years ago. We start off with it earlier.
So
we
funny.
We don't see Anakin as a baby. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we could really get, instead of Darth Maul, you get Dooku, or instead of Count Dooku, you get Maul the whole time. Like, there's ways to make it more of a through line throughout the three films.
It could have been more interesting to have Sidious's character in Phantom Menace, like the projections, be Dooku. That could have given a bit more depth, where we're not starting with Sidious. Let's not start with the mastermind telling Maul what to do. Let's have Dooku, who is Sidious's like subsidiary, teaching Maul, who is once again his subsidiary. So it's going down the chain of command. That could have kind of worked a bit better for me. But I don't know. Overall, I kind of like Dooku's arc. He kind of he tricks Obi-Wan a little bit enough to not really fully hate him yet. But then, you know, in 20 minutes, we're like, oh yeah, well, Dooku's the bad guy. So
yeah.
I feel like there should have been a bigger arc there in this film somewhere. But
yeah, Christopher Lee is really great in this.
Oh, he's fantastic in everything, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Saruman, yep.
Absolutely. Lord of the Rings and Star Wars, it's two huge roles that I feel like if it was like handed off to a lesser actor, they might not be like big roles in the film per se, but they are very impactful roles. So it's good to have someone that can portray that well. You know?
Yeah, he brings in some huge gravitas to the, because he's like a stage actor. He's an old school actor.
Exactly.
You know, he's very
play actor.
He brings. You know what it reminds me of? I know you don't really watch the Marvel films, but like lately in the MCU movies, they've been having, you know, they'll for like even smaller roles, they'll bring in like like Kurt Russell as a bad guy, or bringing in
I've seen that.
Michael Douglas as Hank Pym and stuff, where roles that are a little smaller, but they get like these actors that really lend credence to
and they can be a character actor if needed.
Yes. So we get back to Anakin at the Sand People's camp. This is where he finds his mother. We get a touching scene here, but she dies. I think she just was, I guess, holding out, right? And when she finally sees him, she says, "I'm complete," and she lets go. But we get Anakin full on killing everyone here.
I personally have seen similar to like situations in real life compared to like that film where someone might be holding out. They really like could die. I've seen it in person where someone's just holding on strength to say their goodbyes. And that kind of touches true a little bit. Yeah. So I thought that was, it was definitely interesting writing and effective writing. I don't know if it was portrayed the best way. Once again, I feel like this film is a whole bunch of good concepts and like pretty good writing for the most of it. And the execution kind of falls a bit.
And that's where, like, I think we know George is a huge idea man, but like his direction of actors, like he can direct like scenes, like I just talked about these scenes, right? He
and
can
his set design and stuff like that. He knows what he wants.
But when we're talking about like trying to get the best out of the actors, I think that is probably not his strength, right?
I can agree with that.
Mark Hamill and Harrison always say that, and Carrie used to always say that his number one thing would always be faster, more intense. Like that was his only direction he would like ever give, was faster and more intense,
Yeah.
So obviously I don't think that works for everybody. And I think
it doesn't, and it definitely doesn't work for every scene.
And I think really Hayden was let down here by George in this case, because I think if you see other movies Hayden has done, he has been able to really
Hayden's
perform.
A fantastic actor, and everyone praised him in the commentary.
Oh yeah.
I mean, when I watched the commentary,
a nice guy, he's everything.
Yes, he's a great person, and I mean, there was multiple people talking about how good he truly was, and it kind of falls a little bit for me because I do think he probably chose some more of the weaker takes potentially to show the teenage angst of Anakin.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that necessarily helped the character.
And I will say too, I think some of it is just people don't like whininess or teenage angst in anything that with him being like that, they're like, this is not what I pictured Darth Vader as. So I think part of it is that too. Because
but you also have to be like, okay, well, this evil old man probably started from somewhere where he was a pissed off little kid.
A brat,
yeah.
And
sorry for the cursing.
Yeah, I'll believe it.
Sorry,
but he and I'm really excited. He's coming back for Obi-Wan as well. He's going to be playing Darth Vader.
Heard that. That is really cool. Yeah,
probably maybe some flashbacks. I don't know, but him coming back, I'm really excited. He gets another go at it because I feel like the fan base has swung back around to him. They've swung back around to it always kind of starts that way at times.
I always liked him. I did.
Oh, me too. I do like him.
Yeah. I always thought he was a good actor and a good portrayal of what I thought Anakin would be. I just think the writing was not up to tier with what it should have.
Yeah, and I think at times too, like the direction on getting the best performance out of him is like. So I do think going forward, we're going to see, when you have Deborah Chow who directed some of the Mandalorian episodes and stuff, and being able to get that out of Hayden, and he's actually going to come back for the Ahsoka show too. That's been announced.
Oh, that's cool.
Too. So
I think I did hear about that
maybe.
as well.
I don't know, but like I think it's glad to see him accepted again and coming kind of back into the fold.
Yeah.
We get Yoda hearing, kind of like feeling this dark side turn here. We even hear Qui-Gon. Is this Qui-Gon? Is this Qui-Gon actually the spirit of Qui-Gon that we know can communicate via voice?
Yeah.
He never converts to a ghost, but is it actually him communicating to Yoda here, or like trying to communicate to Anakin? Because he says Anakin, but it's the quote from
It's a quote from the film.
Phantom.
Yeah,
it's from Phantom, where
exactly.
Darth Maul is riding on the swoop bike and he says, "Anakin."
So is it more of a like flashback sort of scenario, or is Yoda reading Anakin's mind and kind of took that part out? It's
because we hear
there's
Qui-Gon
not a lot of
saying,
context. It's tough to decipher. We hear
Qui-Gon saying Anakin, and then we also hear a no. It almost sounds like Luke's no from Empire.
Yeah, when he gets
if it is or not, but
yeah,
that's what it reminds me of. Or Obi-Wan's no from when Qui-Gon dies. I don't know what it is exactly, but
honestly, it would have been a very cool decision to do one very small flash forward of Luke's no. That kind of would be interesting to me.
Yeah, because Yoda could be feeling it, right? He could be feeling like
he might feel the future. Yeah, exactly. Like the Force doesn't work in one specific way. Perhaps he sensed something from the future that kind of sends him on his path to help Luke in Empire. That could be interesting.
We get Mace entering during this, and Yoda says, "Pain, suffering, death. I feel something terrible has happened. Young Skywalker is in pain." And then we go back to Obi-Wan, who's trying to contact Anakin on Naboo, but he's not on Naboo. So he does his tracker. He gets to Tatooine, and he sends the message to try to have, because he can't reach the council. So he's trying to send it to Anakin for Anakin to relay to the council, since they're a little closer.
But it's just not happening. It's kind of Yoda just... I don't necessarily know if that was his direct idea. He may have been more of a way, this is an interesting way, a non-subtle, or a subtle way, to check in on him. A non-direct approach to see what he's up to.
Right.
That's kind of how I did take it, was this is a non-direct way to check in on Anakin. Because I do think that Yoda has been feeling most of those dark feelings from him.
Yeah, and he'll feel it again too, which
in the third,
and this
later
one
in the film. Yeah, later in the film. You're
later
right.
In this one.
Yeah.
So Anakin arrives at the homestead with Shmi's body. They have the funeral. He calls the council and relays Obi-Wan's message. Obi-Wan gets captured here during this message, and they say, "Anakin, stay there and watch Padme." And Padme says, "Well, we're going to go help Obi-Wan." And Anakin says, we were told to stay here. And she says, "You were actually told to protect me, and I'm going." It's really nice.
I really like it. And if I were to say anything about this film, about how good the writing is and how much it kind of goes into the later trilogy, I think that Padme comes across very well and gives me that kind of anarchist, or that same sort of mentality that Leia and Luke have, where it's kind of like, we're not just
very Leia. This is where Leia gets it from.
It's very Leia. It's very Leia. That's why I said Leia first. Yeah. This is very Leia to me. This is like when I'm picturing Leia giving the droids stuff, and she's like, I'm not going to conform, like I'm going to hold my own.
And she's dressed in the white like Leia is during that scene.
Almost,
Leia really wears white, a lot of whight.
A lot of white, and the hood and all. Yeah. Definitely a very interesting kind. Well, at least it's white. If she was wearing a black robe, the sun's just beating on you. But very interesting. I thought there were a lot of good comparisons between her and Leia's character in this movie.
Oh yeah, because this is something Leia would do. She'd be like, "Well, you were told to follow me, so I'm going.
So I'm gonna take you wherever I want." I'm in power. So
Chancellor Palpatine is going to meet with Bail, Mace, and Yoda, and Bail Organa states that the Senate would never pass an order for an army, and that
Bail,
that they would need to give emergency powers. And this is where Masameda, who's like the blue guy, who is like the advisor to Palpatine.
Yes, he's
is he in on this?
I always assume so, especially in the final kind of scene where you see Palpatine on the balcony and he's like, it seems like he's his second guy in charge,
well,
like right behind him.
He is like, but he was also Chancellor Valorum secondhand in Phantom. So like, does Sidious fill him in on this stuff, or is it like,
or
because
is
the way he
controlling
says this,
him too?
The way he delivers this, right? If only Padme Amidala was here, right? Like, if only Senator Amidala was here, like, who would propose this emergency powers? If only Amidala was here, and he knows that Amidala put Jar Jar in charge, and Jar Jar's there, like, oh, Misa
not know what to do,
right? Yeah, and I think that is supposed to like almost like guilt trip Jar Jar into like, you know, Padme would do this, and you're in her place. You should
in her
really
shoes,
do this.
yeah.
I feel like
that's
he's
a good
on
point. And also, Jar Jar is very obviously lackluster,
influential,
and that's a good way of putting it. Yeah. I was gonna say he's very lackluster when it comes to him making personal decisions. I feel like everything he does is kind of influenced by someone else. So yeah, that's a good point that you made there.
Yeah,
it definitely could be them manipulating him.
Yeah, I think maybe I'm not sure if he knows. He doesn't know that. I don't think Palpatine's a Sith Lord. He will
follow his lead,
and he will become part of the Empire. He does have a role in the Empire later on, in some of the books and stuff. That like he is like he gets his own little part of the Empire that he can kind of do his little thing. So I do think he at some point is clued in enough to, and I think at this point he knows some of the plan, or he's just like, let me get my buddy some emergency powers during this war. Let me lean on Jar Jar here and see if he can get that, because I can't propose it because I'm like his right hand man.
So I gotta get council.
Yeah, I gotta get. Yeah. So Dooku then meets with Obi-Wan, and Dooku actually tells the truth here. This is where he talks about
definitely one of the best conversations or written moments, in my opinion, of the film.
And Qui-Gon, Dooku says that he misses Qui-Gon. He wished Qui-Gon wouldn't have died. Dooku trained Qui-Gon. He mentions that, like, I was, just as he was your master, I was his master once, type of thing. And he says Qui-Gon knew of the corruption of the Senate, but he wouldn't do what was needed, is pretty much what he says. And he says, what if I told you the Republic was under the control of a Dark Lord of the Sith? Obi-Wan pretty much says, that's not possible. Like, we would know. That's the arrogance again coming in there.
Once again, the arrogance is really shown in this film. And to me, it kind of did create a problem at a point where it's like, did Yoda just not pick up on anything? Yoda is kind of supposed to be the master, the all knowledgeable one, in my opinion, and
well, I think
he didn't pick up. I mean, slowly he does. He's kind of piecing it together. Yeah.
Well, I think he mentions it in like Revenge of the Sith too, like how he was played. Like, I think he realizes then, like, and also I think the canon explanation is that like Sidious is so well in the dark power that he's able to like obfuscate. I don't know the right word. Hide that the Force is, that something is wrong, right? Because how is he under their nose and not be able to tell the whole time? It's because of Sidious's power, I guess. I'm not really sure fully on the mechanics of it, but we get his name here, Darth Sidious. Count Dooku does say it. And then after Obi-Wan says he won't join Dooku, Dooku before was promising he can get him out. I like Christopher Lee's delivery here of, it may be difficult to secure your release, and he just walks out. Like, really nice scene.
That was a really good scene and great delivery. Yeah.
We get Jar Jar proposing the emergency powers, and this is where I wonder, was Palpatine wrong that the army would not pass the Senate, or Bail was wrong? Because if they pass emergency powers, why wouldn't they pass an army? Like, I don't really understand.
Well, I think it
because they cheer, and they cheer when he says an army. They're like, yeah,
That's true. That's true. Yeah. Why does this have to be as secretive as it was?
Yeah.
Maybe just because
he wanted the emergency powers, is what it is.
Yeah, well, obviously, I think everything that Palpatine does is very calculated.
Mm-hmm.
And the timing will always be correct. But it is another question of just, I mean, why would no one agree with this back then? Why? Obviously, it was kept in secret due to the fact that Palpatine is behind the whole thing. But I definitely could have seen things going a different way with Obi-Wan being like, oh, we have this clone army. Why don't we use it? I mean, he kind of does fill them in through his holograms, but I would have assumed he would have just returned to them first rather than following up. And that could have created a better dynamic, is that you think Obi-Wan is at Geonosis or something like that. This is like a different way of doing it, but maybe you have the hologram coming in while he is running from Jango.
Right.
So you don't necessarily know where he is. He's kind of just in his ship and he's being followed by someone. And I don't know. I just see a lot of different ways this could have played out. In my opinion,
I think in this way, what it is like, right? Like Palpatine probably told Mas Amedda that, like, hey, I want these emergency powers, so we're going to lean on Jar Jar to get them, and I can do whatever I want then. Because we know in Revenge of the Sith, he doesn't give those up. They're like, it's time to give them back up. And he says, no.
Yeah.
So I think the army probably could have passed, but I think maybe they want the emergency powers, and then he can do whatever he wants from there, and it makes it easier to get his plans
his
done.
way.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, he's already having an easy enough time.
Oh, yeah. He's playing them like fiddle.
Yeah. I mean, literally. I mean, it is a good story and good writing, in my opinion, the way that he goes about deceiving everyone.
Mm-hmm.
But at specific times, it becomes a little unbelievable, where you're just like, you're not going to question this guy at all. You're not going to be like, huh.
Right.
I mean, he's talking to like everyone that we know, and he knows all of these things ahead of time, and I don't know.
Yeah. So we get Mace heading to Geonosis. Yoda heads to Kamino. Padme and Anakin arrive on Geonosis. We get the droid factory scene where then...
Your favorite scene in the film, right?
Yeah, Anakin and Padme are captured. I mean, it's all right. It's just a lot of CGI that doesn't hold up. And
you're right. Absolutely. Yeah. My least favorite scene
long.
of the film while watching it last night, and it took me a minute to be like, wow, I really do hate this. But just C-3PO's one-liners. While he's getting... R2... drags him. Oh, this is such a drag. Or yeah. R2, why are you such a like? Just no, just don't. Like, it's not even funny. It's really not.
Yeah, I think the 3PO stuff is a little weird. With his head being a battle droid and his head going onto a battle droid, and like the switcheroo, and I do like when he's like die Jedi dog.
Yes.
Oh, what am I saying?
It adds some comedic moments, you know, and then the battle droid is going like, my legs aren't moving, I need a I must need a fix up, whatever it's called. But it creates some good dynamic. But I do think the long run of R2 saving 3PO, it just comes across too goofy.
Well, R2 is also just a jerk here. Like, he just pushes 3PO off the thing, and we don't know where he would have landed.
That's true.
He ends up landing on a moving thing that's flying.
It's like R2 just kind of had the Force and knew now's the time. But yeah. It's kind of just R2 rolling with the punches. I don't know, you know.
But it just looks so goofy with because it's a CGI 3PO for a lot of this scene in the droid factory too. And
absolutely, everything's pretty much CGI. So
yeah. But we get their capture. They're getting to their execution. They say they love each other. Oh, what I wanted to say too, when he tells Padme, like, I killed them all, not even just the men, the women and children.
Yeah, and
she's
he
like,
specifies,
I love this guy so much. Like
I slayed all those children, and she's like, oh.
Kind of like what people would say now. Those are red flags for your relationship.
Yeah, and there's a few of them throughout the entire movie. Yes. But yeah, another one that stands out to me is when he says something about a dictatorship.
Oh yeah.
And then he's like, "But it works." And then they just play it off with a smile, and it's just like, "Huh?
You're making fun of me." And he says, "I would never make fun of a senator." And he's like, "Ooh, I got out of that, right?"
Yeah. Simple as that. I don't know. Just some little things that stand out to me that I'd be like, I'd probably like be a little more cautious around this guy rather than being all oogling over him, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, she does say it makes him human, and he says, I'm not supposed to be. I'm supposed to be a Jedi. Like, we're supposed to hold ourselves to higher standards. But we get them. This is one of my favorite scenes too, is when they're getting put onto like the pillars, and
it's a great
scene. Anakin says something. I mean, Obi-Wan says something, and Anakin says, "Well, we patched along your message, no problem, and then we thought we'd come and rescue you." And Obi-Wan just looks up at the handcuffs, and he's like, "Good job."
Yeah, you've done a great job, or something like that. Yeah, yep.
The monsters come out. Yeah, go ahead.
Ewan has some great lines throughout the entire film, and his deliverance is perfect on everyone.
He's like the best actor in the prequels.
Yeah, I would definitely say him, and then Christopher Lee. I think they really sell their roles well. And then I'll probably jump in and say like Samuel L. Jackson does a very good job too.
Yeah.
There's a lot of good work, but yeah.
There's some good actors in these. The monsters come out to kill the trio, and we get the fight scene. We get Mace Windu arriving. This party's over. Really great scene. We eventually get, Django.
Total Samuel L. Jackson line.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I love that in space they say something like this
party's over. Yeah, it's just interesting.
Django is going to chase Mace at a certain point. They're going to fight. Mace chops his head off. And I love that if you
put his hand first.
Huh?
Chops his arm off first, I think.
Oh, he chops the gun out. I think he gets the gun out.
Oh, is it just the gun? It might be the gun, but yeah. Go ahead. Sorry.
I just really love, if you pay attention enough, when you see the helmet go flying, you can see the shadow of the head falling out of the helmet. And Boba sees this happen like right in front of him. Yeah.
I thought that the head stayed in the helmet.
No, because when he lifts up the head, when Boba looks at it, it's just the helmet.
It's just the helmet? Oh.
So we get... let me see if I can find a screenshot of this. I was able to find this. Okay. Let me save this real quick and share it for our viewers, and we'll describe it on here. But so if you see here, you have the helmet, and then you have the head coming out of the helmet in the shadow.
Oh, I see now.
And they go separate ways if you really pay attention. They'll and then when you have Boba lifting it up, he's just lifting up the helmet. He's not lifting up, with the head in it.
When I rewatched that last night, I thought he was holding up it with the head. I was like,
interesting choice.
Now rewatching it, how old I am, that's definitely a grotesque image. Is I'm gonna hold my dad's head and headbutt it. Just
so this makes Boba hate Jedi.
Obviously.
Yes, obviously that would, right?
Yeah.
The clones arrive after everybody's about to get caught here, and they save the day. We get the Yoda line, which I'm not sure if this is his proper speak, when he says, "Around the survivors, a perimeter
will create something."
Yes.
Yeah. That line stood out to me too. It seemed a little off Yoda-esque.
It's very wordy. Yeah,
it is. Yeah.
It's supposed to be create a perimeter around the survivors.
But around the survivors, we will. Something like that. Really,
usually it's just like the beginning of, like the end of a sentence and then the beginning of a sentence. But this is like, it takes the word a It puts crate all the way at the end. A perimeter
so
is in the middle, and around the survivors at the beginning.
So I think it would be like around the survivors, a perimeter we will create.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Or
right?
around the survivors, create a perimeter. Something like that.
We will.
Yes, we will. Yeah.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah. I thought it was a little off too. I'm glad you brought that up. I thought the same thing last night. Yeah. I was like, that line seemed a little odd.
Obi-Wan and Anakin are going to chase Dooku. Padme falls out here, and this is where I think we see, you know, when Anakin's arguing with Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan's like, "You'd be expelled from the Order." Like, think about what Padme would do and stuff. We cut to Yoda with looking oddly and feeling. I think he's feeling that
the tension between them, or something's going on. He can sense it. Yeah, that makes sense.
And then we get, Anakin gets defeated quickly, like a little out of commission for a little bit with the Force lightning, because they don't take them together. Obi-Wan faces Dooku by himself and gets defeated after a short bit. And then
Anakin literally gets destroyed immediately, and then Obi-Wan goes and does his own thing.
And then Anakin has to come back and save Obi-Wan, and then gets his arm lopped off. So.
And I found it interesting how he just goes, "Ah!" and then he gets force pushed. I suppose the way that this was meant to be conceived is that he gets force pushed after getting his arm lopped off.
Yes.
And he gets knocked out by kind of hitting his head on the ground.
I don't think he gets knocked out. I think he...
you think it was more of
he's just in kind of pain
in
from
shock
his arm
or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, his eyes are closed in the scene. It looks like he's sleeping.
Yeah, I think he's at some point it might be a take like that, but I think when Yoda saves them from the thing falling on him, I think they're both writhing in pain.
I don't know. I'm gonna have to take a closer look. To me, it did not look like Anakin was doing anything. Looked like he was knocked out cold.
But Yoda arrives to save them. He calls Dooku his old Padawan. So I want to ask you, do you think... I know in I think the old books that were no longer canon, that it was Yoda's actual Padawan was Dooku. But do we think that, or do we think it's actually how he trains all of the younglings and he just calls all of them Padawan?
Yeah, so essentially it would have been more like the younglings. Because I don't know. I feel
Yoda's 900 at this time. He's either had a lot of...
I'm pretty sure that I've read up on this. And that Dooku actually was Yoda's Padawan. There is something in the Jedi archives. Yeah. That states so. I'd Google it right now, but
I'm looking.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm pretty sure it actually is canon that he was Yoda's apprentice, actual apprentice. But you let me know if I'm wrong.
I'm looking now. So Yoda did take him as an apprentice.
Yeah, I was gonna say I remember reading that. Maybe it was in the Darth I
just usually think once you're on the council, you probably don't have that many apprentices, right? Your job is to be on the council at that point.
And then if not, you're teaching classes like how Yoda did with the younglings, where it's a class of 30 people. Yeah, of course you're my Padawan. Yeah. It's not where you actually take them on.
But Yoda decides to save Obi-Wan and Anakin instead of going after Dooku, so Dooku escapes, and we get Dooku arriving on Coruscant to tell Palpatine that the war has started.
Can I please have a complaint?
Yeah.
I hate Dooku's ship.
Really?
I do not understand.
With the parachute thing?
Yeah, with the parachute thing. That is my main gripe. Is that supposed to be... Because now... When I rewatched it last night, I was trying to put it into perspective. There is obviously no wind draft. This isn't a ship's sail.
Right, you're in space, yeah.
Yeah. So is this a shield? Is that what that's supposed to be?
I don't know, because I think the ships usually have shields that don't show.
That don't even show unless if they're shot.
Right.
Then they kind of spark, something. Yeah, I don't get his ship. I don't know. It didn't work for me at all. It felt like I was watching Treasure Planet.
It's true.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. reminded me of that immediately. I was like, huh.
That's funny.
Yeah, right? I was like, wind doesn't work in space.
That didn't bother me, surprisingly. Then we get Obi-Wan, Yoda, and Mace talking about what Dooku said. They don't believe him, but they do think they'll keep a closer eye on the Senate, which was it Dooku's own going rogue to tell Obi-Wan this, or is this part of Palpatine's plan to make them more suspicious, which drives the wedge between Anakin and the Council? What do you think here?
See, and that might just be a bit of a plot hole because we'll never have an explanation.
Give it time. Somebody will write a book about it or something.
Yeah, well, I'm sure there will be 3 by the time that I'm done talking about it, but it definitely is an interesting concept to think that Palpatine kind of set this all up just for him to be able to have Anakin as an apprentice eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that kind of supports that. I could picture that. I could picture that he simply set all of this up, told Dooku what to say, so then Anakin may hear something about it from Obi-Wan, and then he'll fall back to Palpatine. Honestly, though, the way I want to view it is just Dooku kind of being a little lackluster and spilling the beans.
Yeah, I think it's just the Sith way of they're always trying to go after their master.
Yeah.
I think that's all it is.
They are, yeah, and I kind of agree with that. I think that's what happened is Dooku just sitting there kind of talking too much for his own good.
Right.
That's why he got killed off in the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why, that might be why.
Exactly. He's like, you stupid anyway, shit. Yeah.
So then we see the clones arriving and the Senate is watching. We get the first instance of the Imperial March. And then we see the Anakin and Padme wedding and the movie ends.
I love that final Imperial March and the way that it seriously seemed like it transcended from the first, as in Phantom Menace, to A New Hope, and then it kind of hit marks of Return of the Jedi with this upbeat kind of
wedding thing
music. Yeah, I really like the way that the composer did the music. At least that definitely stood out to me during that scene.
He's legendary.
John Williams is a fantastic composer. Yeah.
But we get so we get the end of that. Now I do think the Imperial March is a little suspicious for that scene because I do wonder what they're trying to tell us there. Obviously, we know that they'll become the Empire, but also they're in a war with the Separatists. So is it okay, you shouldn't be because we'll see the clones fight with the Jedi and be on their side in the next movie. So it's do I trust them or do I not? Do I trust them or not? So it is very interesting to have gotten the Stormtrooper parallel in this scene because I think it may have confused some people that are maybe a little bit more casual fans of wait, are these good guys?
Casual fans for sure.
Yeah.
For people like us, it definitely was okay, so eventually this is what we know to be Stormtroopers.
Yeah.
But it also did give me a bit of a feeling that, because keep in mind that it is called Imperial March, where it's like an army style sort of song, right? So you could kind of take it however you want. If you're not super in depth or just trying to predict what's going on, you could definitely take it at face value and just say, well, this is kind of like an army style song. They're marching. They are. In the scenes that you watch while it's playing, the soldiers are marching and getting into the line and all.
And I think it's an actual canon song, too. I think in Solo you hear it when they're trying to recruit stormtroopers. So,
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, so I do think it is I think you said it might be just something that they're actually marching to in this.
Exactly. Yeah, it simply could be something that is less than what it's some people take it for being. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know their exact idea behind it. I definitely at face value go, oh yeah, well these are going to be the stormtroopers.
Yeah. I think that's what Williams was doing.
Yeah, and I have the feeling that's what he was doing too. But there's a couple little fun ways that you could take it if you want.
Yeah, that's what we're here for, right?
Yeah, right.
Break it down in new, interesting ways. So that's Attack of the Clones. So just looking at it again from Boba's standpoint Fett, here, at this point we are introduced to him as a clone that's unaltered. He's a son of a famous bounty hunter who ends up dying in front of him, and he wants to, he's left with the armor
in a very grotesque way.
Yes, let's just very say that. Brutal way.
Yeah, it's not like he just got killed. He got his friggin' head cut off.
Yeah.
And then the son clone goes up and literally is like head to head with it. Like,
yeah,
I'm going to take everything that you ever taught me and
get revenge on
take it up a notch. Yeah. I'm going to get my revenge one day. Yeah. It's definitely how I took it. I do think the character of Boba shines through at specific moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think one great one was when he does just take the slave one up and start doing things.
Yeah.
He didn't need instruction from Jango to do it. He already knew what he was doing. That was kind of interesting for me to see that even at such a young age, he already knew how to pilot this huge ship and how to use it. Yeah, there's a lot of moments. The Boba stuff is probably some of the best in the film to me, even though I do think either the writing or the acting of child actors, I don't know what to say,
Yeah.
I thought it was very interesting. I thought it created a great dynamic, and it was probably one of the better ways of writing Boba's introduction into it. I prefer that over him just being a random bounty hunter himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
I like that they're involved in the action here instead of just like this is just some guy we'll meet in episode 4 or 5,
5, and literally you will barely see him.
And he dies, and
as soon as he starts to get cool, he dies. Yeah,
before the Mandalorian
dies,
came out, he was, officially dead in the movies.
Well, in the movies, but there were books.
There was books and stuff that. George didn't care though; he would write those over anytime he wanted.
Yep.
So the next time we'll see Boba. So this next episode that we'll be breaking down, there's 5 Clone Wars episodes that Boba is in.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to watch those. I'm going to list them out here for people that are listening to watch.
2D or 3D?
The 3D one, yeah.
Okay, 3D one. Okay. I was going to say, I remember watching all the 2D.
No, you're good. Yeah, the 2D one, I don't think is... it's like a messy situation on if that's...
It really is, yeah.
Because there are some insane things like Mace destroying a whole thing of droids that would have been okay, why didn't you do that at Geonosis?
Yeah, so that, and then we also have new species like the Mandalorian style guy that becomes like a monster, with his stretchy limbs and stuff. You know what I'm referring to? Obi-Wan faces him. No. It's in the Clone Wars, the 2D.
I know there was Dirge. Is that who you're talking about?
No, it's like a classic Mando from from KOTOR. Kind of reminds me of one of those Mandos.
Oh yeah, this is who it's Dirge. Yeah.
Okay, Dirge. Sorry.
He's like a big blue.
Yes, a big blue Mando, and then he becomes like the Thing. If anyone has seen the Thing, Jordan hasn't, but he becomes like a just androgynous creature essentially. Like it's just an alien full of stretchy limbs and can rebuild himself. It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's this guy.
It is that guy. Yeah, it's that guy. Yep. It is that guy.
All right. So these episodes, it's season 2, episode 20, Death Trap. This is so these 3 episodes are an arc. So season 2, episode 20, Death Trap, episode 21, R2 Come Home, and episode 22, Lethal Trackdown. And then season 4, episode 15, Deception, and season 4, episode 20, Bounty. And they did have more stuff planned for him there that when the Clone Wars got canceled, they weren't able to continue. So I wonder if they'll show those type of things in Bad Batch going forward at some point. But at this rate, these are the only canon appearances in between episodes 2, and he technically appears in 4 in a scene. We're not going to do the whole movie for that one scene in the special edition. We're going to jump to Empire after these Clone Wars episodes, and we're going to kind of we can mesh that in because it's just really him working for Jabba in that one scene, and we can kind of mesh that
like
in
the introduction to the Boba Fett we know today.
Yes, I think
rather than the little kid, we get to see him kind of
into the special edition because he wasn't actually a created character until like the holiday special or in between movies or something.
Interesting.
But yeah, so if you want to follow the show, I will have also all those episodes in the show notes and stuff. So if people don't remember what I just said, they're listed there. But if you want to follow the podcast on Twitter, it is on Twitter under @podawakens, facebook.com/podawakens, Instagram @podawakens. I'm not on Instagram that much with this stuff. And email podawakens@gmail.com if you want to share your theories on Boba or anything that we're talking about. But I want to thank Brandon again for jumping on here and talking some Attack of the Clones. And we will see you all next time.
Absolutely. It was a blast. Thanks for having me, Jordan.